Okay, good morning everyone. So today we are going to do this simple parkour game prototype. The idea is like this. So first thing, we will have a player. He will be generated at this point. And then he has to go through all these paths. And there will be some smasher box. Keep falling down and touch him. Once he has been touched for 3 times, the player will die. And then if he successfully goes through this pathway and come to here, he has to activate this trigger. And this platform will flow up and he can jump to the platform and go to the next part. And finally, once he enters this zone, the entire game will be over and he will win this game. So that's the idea. Let's take a look. The first thing is that click this simulate button. Alright, so you can see that every box has a different speed and the reason. So we have to carefully go through that. Alright, so if you okay, so alright, so now I'm here. Jump. This part I have once I have been hit for more than 3 times and I died. So that's the idea. But if I can successfully go to this zone and I will win again. So that's the whole idea. Actually, we can try to add on some time restriction, but that's the next part. So how can we make this one? And that's the point for today. No matter what kind of game project you're going to design, first things I would suggest you guys to think about the different systems. How many systems you have to do. So that's the first things we have to figure it out. So let's take a look. Let me using this little painter to show the idea to you. Okay. So first thing, basically for the entire game, the game mode is third person parkour game, right? So this one has already been set up because inside Unreal, when you choosing this template, it will already give you the idea, okay, this game is about the third person BP, right? This is about the third person template. So the base setting has been already done. So the next things we are going to do, for sure, the player part. And for this part, Unreal also did that for us because inside Unreal Game Engines, it already set up the movement control and the stat machine for the character. That's the things I have shown you guys before. You can take a look about your character controlling right here. Alright? Because I have already changed something about this character. So there's some additional stuff right here. But for the rest of the things, that's about the controlling of your character. So for this part, the pawn, usually we call the 2-foot character inside Unreal the pawn character. It has already been done. So this part is fine. It's fine, this one has already been done. So for the next things, the things we have to do actually is to base on this one and to develop the HP system, the health point system. And then for the level, for the entire game, for the game scenes, we will have we call that one level. For inside this one, we will have the trigger for activate the platform. And also we will have a winning zone. And finally, we have the smasher. And for every time when the smash collide on our player, it will reduce the health point of the player. So it will have an attacking point, or let's say damage. Right? That's the idea. So that's the things. We have the smasher, and once the smasher touch the player, it will reduce your HP point. And for the win zone, once you enter this zone, and you will win. And for the trigger, it will activate the very simple let's say, floating platform. Once you go to activate the trigger, and the platform will goes up, and you can jump on that. That's the thing. And how about the rest part? I think probably that's all for this time. And for sure, we still can set something like the death mode. That's about the movement of your player. You can set some special action for your player. And also we can do probably some visual effect, like an explosion effect. That's also the things we can do. But usually you can set this one on here or probably right here. So remember this image. It's very important. The basic game mode, Unreal has already done that for us. And for the player setting and also the Palm controller, Unreal also has set up that for us. So for the next part, it will be about the subsystem, like under the level, under the entire game scene. The entire game scene. We will have trigger for controlling the platform. We will have the win zone. And finally, we have the smasher. Okay? And for a player, we have the add-on HP health point. And also, if you want, you can set up the dash controlling and also some visual effect. Once the smash touch the player, it will explode or something. So that's the idea. Okay, so based on these flowchart, or we can call this one infrastructure diagram, we can start to do the coding stuff. Let's do this. So first things, let's go back to Unreal Game Editor. And I prefer you guys, just like what I did, I prefer you guys to put a new folder to put all of your coding material or your 3D model. I don't like you guys put the things inside starter content or probably some folder that are already existed inside Unreal Game Engine. Because usually these folder, they are very complicated and also they have their own hierarchy. So please do your own organization. Manage your resource well. Once your game becomes super complicated, that will be really, really important. So I open up this one. So just right click and click new folder and name a new one. Alright? Because I already have one, so I don't need this one. Let's just delete, right click and find delete here. Just delete that one. Delete. Okay. So now let's go back to the RAY Blueprint. Just like what we said before, Blueprint is a graphic coding tool inside Unreal Game Engines. And the basic idea about Blueprint is that it's a combination between 3D model, graphic coding, and also many different things together. So with the Blueprint, you can use this one in your game, you can use this one to change the game mode, you can use this one to edit the material, etc. It's a very powerful tool inside Unreal Game Engines. So the first things we're going to do is the platform. That's the things I just showed to you guys, that we can use this one as a trigger. We can put them here. And right here we have the platform editor. You can try to change the size, change the parameter, and then put your editor right here. So once the player enters this zone, and this trigger will falling down, and he can jump onto the platform. That's the idea. So let's double click and go to the Blueprint editor. This is the Blueprint editor, and probably you will find out this one is very similar to that one, right? That looks pretty much the same, but what's the difference? And also we have another 3D viewport right here, just right here. Let me go to there. Okay, this is a 3D model inside Blueprint. So inside Blueprint, actually we can drag many things inside. For example, if you want, you can drag probably this model and put your model into here. So it will become a Blueprint component. Usually we call this one actor. Actually, all the things inside Unreal Engine, we can call them actor. But it's a Blueprint actor. So once you change this blueprint object, all the duplication will change as well. Anyway, I will delete that because right now I don't want to change that. So first thing, for the viewport, you can drag and also you can add different geometry just like what we did inside the Unreal Game Editor. You can add the things inside the blueprint viewport and create your own 3D model. And next part about the construction script and event graphic. So for these two, both of them is about the blueprint editor. Just like what we mentioned before, blueprint is just like a series of nodes. And the single will transmit from the first node to the final node. And using this way, you can make the coding and the programming idea be visualized. So compared to the traditional coding, I would say it's more friendly to designers. And also, Blueprint is very, very powerful. And what's the difference between this one, construction script and event graphic? The difference is that for the construction script, basically it's for editor, alright? If you coding right here, the things will just show up inside the editor. But if you coding inside event graphic, all the things you did right here, it will be show up after you start the game. Okay? After you play this button, the things you did inside your blueprint will show up. That's the major difference. This one, it will work after the game starts. And this one will work while you are editing your game scene. So that's the thing. For example, if you are going to make a mess inside your game scene, and you want it show up inside the editor, then you should use construction script. But if you are going to automatically generate the AI, or probably automatically generate anime, I would say using event graphic, because it should supposed to show up after the game. So that's the thing. So next part for sure is pretty much the same. Here is the outliner. It will show up all the things you have inside your blueprint, just like the outliner on the left side inside your Epic Game, inside your Epic Game editor, inside your Unreal Game editor. And here is your blueprint detail. So if you are going to check what kind of variable you have and what type it is, it will show up. And final part, this is the details about the component. So, for example, if you are going to define this node, or you are going to define some parameter, some variable, it will show up right here. That's the detail. So for this part, that's the panel for showing the structure, the different type, and some information about the function of this node. But for this part, it will be something more detailed about the node itself. So anyway, just remember this one show the detail and this one show the system information of this node. And here it shows all the object you have inside this blueprint. So that's the idea. Now let's go back to the viewport and we can start to talk about how to make this one work. Let's go back to Unreal Game Editor, right click, choosing Blueprint, and choosing Actor. Just like what we said before, all the objects inside Unreal Game Engine, usually we can call them Actor. So now we have a blueprint. Let's rename this one. Let's call this one BP Box Playform 2. So now we have. Double click, enter the blueprint editor. And drag this one to here. I want to turn off that. So, first thing is we are going to add the cube, just like what we have here. Where's that? Okay, here we go. So, let's go to here and go to add and choosing cube. And right now, it's not the cube that I showed to you, but we can change that here. Let's go to here, and you can find that SM. Chamfer cube. So that's the thing. And for sure, we can change the material. If you want to make this one become blue, yeah, just go to here to change that one to blue. For now, actually, it doesn't matter, but let's just try. Okay, so static mesh, let's change that one to SM chamfer cube. And for the material, let's go to material and find out MI solid blue. So now we have. So the next thing we have to do is to create a collider. We have to create a collide. So let's go to here. Box collision. That's the things we're going to use. Once you click, this one doesn't show up. It will always be created as a center point. So you have to drag this out. And we can make this one go up a little bit. And using the scale, using it to unlock this lock. Okay, turn off this lock and try to scale down this one and make this one bigger a little bit, probably 1.2 times bigger. Make this one a personal math plate just as big as your box. Okay, so now we have, and pull this one down, probably on the top of your cube. So now we have this one. Let's rename them, okay? Let's rename these two cubes. So the first one, let's call this one plate form. This trigger. Let's just call it T. And the collider box, I think there's no problem for that. So now let's create a new one. We can just simply duplicate this one. Alright, let's duplicate this one and rename this one. Let's call this one plate form. So let's call this one P. So now we have. And let's drag this one out, probably through here. And it doesn't have to be so thick. So let's turn this one down, probably just 0.2 or 0.3, something like that. Alright, so once we finish, let's just click Save and Compile. Remember, every time once you change your object, once you change your blueprint, don't forget to save and compile so that it will store your change. Now, if we drag them here, it will show up like this. And if I duplicate this one, and probably, for example, let me duplicate one more. Duplicate one more. And I save, compile. So you can see all the same blueprint object will change as well. Anyway, it's just a demonstration. I don't need so many bugs. So that's it. For the next part, the things we're going to do, first things I want to do is construction script. Okay? So the idea is like this. Because this plate form, I want at least one can be adjusted. Alright? Then let me rotate. Let's press E and you can rotate this one 90 degrees. Press W and move this one here. Press F key and you can zoom in. F key on your keyboard and you can zoom in. So right now for this plate form, I hope this one can be adjusted based on the different type of the level, different type of mass, and you can adjust the position of this plate form. So in order to do that, in order to shoot just like the things I already done before, like this, okay, I can adjust, and also I can adjust the size. In order to do that, the things we have to code in will be inside construction script, okay, under construction script. So let's take a look. First things we have to drag the SM chamfer cube to the construction script. So which means set up this one, the plate form, drag, and now we have this component. So this one is this. Okay, this one is the plate form. So now we have already put this one to the construction script. And how about the second thing? For the second part, the things we are going to do is to set the relative scale 3D. What's that mean? What's that mean? Basically, this one, we can use in this component to set up the scale, to set up the relative scale. So let's drag and just go to find set relative scale 3D. Alright, so now we have. For this one, we can just simply delete that because we already have this. And for this one, usually we call this one executing. So for example, if you are going to execute this node, you have to put the construction suite activate node single to here, so that it will receive the single from this beginning node. This one will, so once you go back, this one will be activated. Okay, so remember, sometimes if your code is not working, probably you forget to connect this executing node. And if I don't want this one anymore, how can we do that? Just hold on your Alt key and click, and you will disappear. Alright, hold on your Alt key, click, and you will disappear. Alright, so now we have. So how about the scale? How can we set the scale? For this one, I prefer you guys split this one to pin. So now we will have 3. Or you can just follow the things I did, using Mac vector. Using Mac vector to control the size right here. So we can just go here, Mac vector, find out this component, and using this one to control it. And basically they are pretty much the same. The only difference is that we can just, if you're using the first one using split, let's do that again, auto. If you're using split, you can just simply type in the number right here. And if you're using vector, it will just transform your data into a vector and using that vector to control the size. So there's nothing different. Alright, let's try to organize them. So now we have the vector, but right now all of them are 0, 0, 0. So we need to create a variable to control them. For the z, which means the thickness of the platform, I don't want to change that. So probably I will just type in 0.2. This one is just a floating number, a regular number. But for these two, I hope that can be variable. How can we make them become variable? Let's just go to here. And let's call this one platform size. And right now, the type of this variable is Boolean. That's not the things I want. So we have to turn this one into floating or integer. Both of them can work, okay? So let's choosing floating. And remember, you have to save and compile first, so it will show up. So now we will have the platform size. Let's put them here. Drag and choosing get platform size. Remember, it's get, not set. If you're choosing set, basically you are going to using another node to define the number of this variable. But if you're choosing get, basically we are just using this variable to control other things. So we are going to using the first one, the get platform size, and just connect them to the x and y. And for sure, you can type in a number right here. Probably let's type in 2. And let's choosing compile and save. And also, you can turn on the little I right here. If you turn on the little I right here, and don't forget to save and compile. And if we drag, actually we don't have to drag, just using this one. If you take a look about this blueprint you just created, it will show up right here. That's the platform size we create right here. So now we can using this section to control the platform size. Alright, so that's about the scale of the platform. So now we already have the scale. For next things we're going to do, sorry for that, I have to connect them. Next things we have to do is to set up the location so that it can be adjusted to and fit with the different type of math and different type of location. So the idea is pretty much the same, just using set relative location to do that. So let's just go here, right click, and find out set relative locations. Alright, and for this one, because they are the same, so we don't have to redo that. Let's just connect platform to here. And how about the executing panel? For sure, we can just connect to here, but unfortunately, you can find out this one can only export one single. So if you connect to here, you cannot connect to here. So how can we do that? Actually, it's pretty simple. One way is that we can add a node that names sequence. And for this one, it will give you multiple single. So basically, just like an extension or something, and you can use in this button, press this plus icon to create more exporting node. Well, actually, we don't have to do that because we can just simply connect the construction script to the relative scale 3D first, then connect this executing node to the input point of select set relative location. So basically it means after you scale, and then you can start to move its position. That's the idea. So how about the location part? It's pretty much the same. Let's just Ctrl C, Ctrl V, copy the MAC vector again, and connect them to here. And for this one, the major difference is that we have to know the location of the platform first. So how can we do that? Let's choosing this, drag this line out, and go to find get location, relative location. So now we have, and let's take a look. Once we have this one, we can break the vector, make them become floating number, x, y, z, the coordinate number, and change the y direction. Because the things we are going to do is based on the y direction, just like this. We are going to move them. But for sure, you can just simply rotate this geometry, and it will be another different direction. So I think it's fine. So for the next part, let's try to do that. Break vector, and for the x, let's just put them into x. For the y, let's just put them into y. For the rest of the part, that's about the y direction, y parameter. That's the things we're going to change. So we can just simply let's choosing. The way I did is using a multiply point and set up a y location parameter. Alright, anyway, let's try to do that. Let's try to create a y parameter. Create a new one. Okay, and then let's drag them to here. Get y locations. And because we still have this, the y location, the original y location. So let's just simply drag and place the multiply icon on your keyboard. I prefer it be organized for the sequence. Connect that to here. Okay, so now we can use the y location to control the location of your geometry. Let's save and compile, and the y location will show up. Again, we can turn on this one. Okay, we can turn on this little icon so that once you turn on that, it will show up right here. It doesn't move at all. Why is that? The size work, but the y location doesn't work. Let's go back to check. Because right now this one is 0. So no matter what you did, it still will be 0. So you have to give that an initial number, I think. Oh, it still doesn't work. Alright, anyway, let's check. So this is the time for us to debug. So for now, everything works fine. Let's try to simulate. Okay, so I find out some weird things, but that's something we missed before. First thing, inside Blueprint, it has its own coordinate, and it's different from the world coordinate of your game scene. So it's very important to know which direction you are going to do. And second thing, you have to set up, if you want to change the y location, you have to set at least 1 right here. Otherwise, no matter how you change the number right here, it will still be 0. Okay, so let's type in 1. This one, the minimum number is 1, and the default location of the platform, that's also set to 1. Let's compile and save. Now I think it's supposed to work. So if I change the parameter right here, so you can see it will change right now. But unfortunately, again, just like what we said before, the things I want to do is to move the y location on the world's coordinates. So which means it will be the x location inside the blueprint. So we have to go back to construction script, change that one. For y, let's just set them to y, and for x, let's set them to here. Okay, so now we have compile and save. So I hope right now it will work. Obviously it's too much. This time is 0. Let's change. Okay, so now it works. So that's all for construction script. Now we already have a cube that can work with our game scene. And we can use in the editor, the detail editor, to control the size and the geometry of your blueprint. Okay, so don't forget to save your file. For the next part, we are going to do event graphic. So for the event graphic part, basically it will control the action after you start the game. So the idea is like this: once our player touch this collider box, and this trigger will falling down, and this platform will goes up. So that's the things we're going to do. Okay. So now let's go to event graphic. Take a look about our example. So in order to do the things I just mentioned, once the character enter this zone and this trigger will falling down and that platform will goes up, we have to create two nodes, and this node will base on the collider we create. So first one is named onComponentBegin Overlap, which means once your player enter this box, this node will be activated and start to export the signal. And once your character leave this box, it go out of the box, and this one onComponentEndOverlap, it will be activated. So it will start to export the signal. So that's the things. So first things we can see this node, let's say this coding into two different parts. The first one, it will be about the trigger. Okay, so you can see the control is about the trigger box. So first things, once we enter, alright, and it will trigger this timeline. This timeline will create a very smooth vector. If we double click, it will create this kind of smooth or Bezier curve vector, and we can use this one to generate animations. So once we have this vector, we can use this smooth vector to create the movement of your character. So again, it's about set relative location, just like what we did before. The next thing is about to make the platform goes up. So you can see the second one is about move component 2, and the controlling object is about the SM chamfer cube, right? SM chamfer cube. So once again, you have to decompose the location of the cube first, and then move the component to the top tier object. So that's the thing. And for this one, that's the controlling about the moving distance of this platform. So let's do that step by step, okay? So first things, let's go back to here. And the things we are going to do, click this one, right click, and you can choose an add event and begin overlap. Right click, add event, and overlap. So now we have. So this is the two components that we are going to use at the very beginning. And second thing, the things we're going to do is timeline. Add timeline. So if you remember, that's the things we are going to use in this for creating vector. So once the character enter, and this timeline will play. And once our character leave the colliding box, it will start to reverse playing. So that's the idea. Once you create that, we can double click this one. Double click and start to create a new track. So the things we're going to do is to create vector track. Okay, it's a vector track, just like this. Take a look, it's a vector track. Okay, so now let's start to do the component controlling. So how can we do this one? So first thing, we don't need the X and Y direction, we just need the Z direction. So just lock the X and Y location, so we won't touch them anymore. And for the total length of your timeline, it depends on how long it will take for moving up. So let's take a look about the reference. Basically, I think this one is only 3 seconds. So let's just set up 3 seconds for the length. Let's set up 3. So now you can see in this one, in this timeline, the horizontal part is about the time length. And for the vertical part is about the height of the Z direction and also the number of the X and Y. But right now we already locked that. So the only things we can use right now is the Z. So if you already set up all this stuff, hold on your Shift key on your keyboard, and we are going to set up the keyframe. So for the first frame, it will be 0. So let's just hold on your Shift key and your left mouse button, click here, and set up to the precise number. The time is 0, the value is 0. And for the final one, the third one, let's hold on again, click. The time is 3, and the value, I guess, is 3. So now we will have, and it's so high. Sorry for that. I should lock them. Let's do that again, okay? Lock these two because I don't want to change that. So for the Z, let's hold on and click this one. Create a keyframe on Z direction. And for on the third second, click again, create another keyframe. For time, set up 3. The value set up 3 probably. Okay, so now we have. It's too high, so we cannot see that. It's okay. We can just simply click this one and that one, these two buttons, and force everything to be fit in your window frame. Alright. The last thing is that right now these two, this is one. We can change that later. So the last things we have to do is that right now in our reference they are very smooth. So we have to change the type of the node. The type of the keyframe. Let's choosing auto. So it will be automatically changed to this kind of smooth Bezier curve. So when you are going to make animation, it will look like ease in and easy out. So it will become very smooth animation. Let's change this one to 1 and make this one fit with your animation. And save and compile. So now we have this timeline. Okay. So with this vector, with this timeline, we can start to do our first setting for the event graphic. The first thing is set location for the trigger, the trigger cube. Let's do that. Set relative location. And for the box, we don't need that. Just drag the trigger to here. Okay, so now we have. And how about the vector part? That's the things we're going to use. But right here, you can see that I still prefer using the multiply to control the detail. So let's try to do that. First thing, make vector, just like what we did before. Actually, for most of the nodes inside event graphic, it's just like the same we have inside construction script. Some of them are different. Some of them only exist in construction script. Some of them only exist in event graphic, like the event begin overlap. It's only for event graphic. But most of them are pretty much the same. Anyway, let's try to do that. So make vector. Okay. Connect to here. And for this one, it's also a vector. But right now we are going to decompose that. So let's choose in break vector. Break vector. Alright? So now we have. Break vector, make vector. So the next things we're going to do is to change the parameter. So for the X and Y, they are pretty much the same, so we don't have to change that. But for the Z, we are going to change that. So for the Z part, let's type in multiply. Alright, multiply. And for the Z, alright, so right now I said it's for negative 30. I'm not so sure this is appropriate number, but we can adjust that later. So for this part, I wanted this one can be adjusted under here. So just like what we did before, let's choosing promote to variable, and let's call this one trigger height. Trigger height. Alright, and don't forget to save and compile. And at the very beginning, let's just type in negative 30, just like the things we have right here. Alright, So save and compile. Let's do some tests. Play. The things right now we have to do is play. Oh, annoying. Okay, falling down. So it works. Okay, guys, it works. But right now the play phone is still like that, so I want to delete that. I want to we are going to do the next part for the setting of the play phone. Let's drag them to here. So the play phone is about move the component to. It's a little bit different from set the relative location, but actually, I think the idea is pretty much the same. So anyway, let's try to do that. Move component to, and for the vector part, pretty much the same. All right, pretty much the same. So let's connect, move component to this one, and just like what we said before, once we touch the trigger and when it's falling down, and this one will export a single to here. Okay, you will export a single to here, and this one will start to activate and start to run. For this one, target relative locations. That's the things we're going to do. So that's choosing make vector. Okay, so we have make vector target. So once we have the things we are going to do, again, just like what we did before inside construction script, we have to get the relative location and break that one into 3 different input points. So let's try to do that. Get relative locations and split to 3 different input points. Just right click. Okay, let's do that again. Right click, split struct pin. For X and Y, there's no difference. For the Z, let me check the number. I forget. Ooh, okay. Applications. It's a little bit weird. Alright, anyway, let's just try. Drag and choosing multiply. And for that part, just enter. And for this one, I want to promote to variable again. And this one, let's call that play from height. Let's copy the name right here. Go to here. Type in play from height. Alright. So once we have compile and save. For now, for the play from height, let's type in 5, I guess. I'm not so sure, but let's try. Oh, -5. -5. And alright, so now let's take a look. So, probably you will find out in my reference there is an option which names delay, and also there is an option which names overtime. So for this one, basically they are controlling the deleting time. You can make these move the component move slower or delay 2 seconds for starting. So let's go here, choosing delay. Okay, so you will delay for 3 seconds. And for this one, over time, you can promote that one to variable, or just enter a new variable right here called overtime. Drag them, get overtime, set up right here. Compile and save. Let's type in probably 1. Compile and save. Let's check. Alright, 3 seconds. So for this one, let's set 3 seconds. Okay, so that's the whole view of the entire script. For this part, it's about the movement of the platform, and for this part, it's about the movement of the trigger. So once your players enter the colliding box, it will go. The trigger will falling down, and the platform was supposed to go up. That's the idea. Let's compile and save and start to test. At the very beginning, you have to settle up a number for the z location. It can be 0. If it's 0, no matter how you did for the multiply, it will be 0, right? So for this part, at the very beginning under the viewport for this platform, you have to set up some number. Probably I will set negative 100. And for event graphic, for this platform height, up to you. Right now, the things I set is -5. Probably it's a little bit too much. So let's just try to -2. And save compile. Let's take a look. Right, let's do this. Quickly go through one. Jump. Going down. Okay, the plane jump up. Oh, it's too high. Okay, I cannot jump. And sorry. So that's about the balance. You have to find the perfect timing for your game. So obviously the platform height is too much. So the things I want to change is maybe just negative. I don't know, make -2. Probably it will be fine. Let's play. May I jump to here? Alright. Is this possible? Okay, let's jump to this trigger box. Alright, so it goes up. Still a little bit too high. And before I go out, it started falling down, so it's not right. It's still too high. So for the timing, it's still not perfect. So basically, the things you have to adjust is about over time. Probably it's too much. And also for the delay timing, you can make this one faster. And final thing about the platform height, probably adjust a little bit or change the default value of this one. -100 is too much, then change this one to -50 or something. Alright? Okay, so that's the whole thing for today. First thing, construction script for coding your the size of the platform. And second thing, event graphic to control the movement of your platform and trigger. And right now, the things I want to do is to organize them. So for example, I want to organize the line. You can double click, create a node, and drag them to here, and make the entire node be clear, be organized. Alright? And also don't forget this one. I think we forget this. Okay? Connect here to the related location, so it will work. Okay, so it works. And second thing is, we can try to make some annotations for that. So for example, this one, right, choosing overplan, right click, create content from selection. And it will tell you, okay, this is for scale control for platform. And how about this? This is double click. Right click. And this is the location. So for platform, right? So that's it. Okay, and how about the event graphic? For the event graphic part, let's do the same thing. So basically, let's just separate into two different parts. The first one is to trigger movement. The second one, right click, movement. Okay, compile and save. So now you have already created your first blueprint. So the rest of the part is about the balance. So that's the things you have to do. For next time, we are going to do the smashers. That's the things we have to do to make the game fun and interesting. Okay, so that's all for today. See you next week. Don't forget to save. See you next week.